Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to Mispa Passion, YouTube's premier channel about all things women's football. And today we'll be continuing the World Cup hype train as we'll be looking at the recently released Adidas, Nike, and other brands kits for the Women's World Cup. Nowadays, in the footballing world, kit releases are part of the zeitgeist and the hype around tournaments and regular seasons, be it in club football or national team football. And this year is something very special from the different brands that are representing the women's teams at the World Cup in Australia and New Zealand this year. Because when I say they have gone all out, I really do mean that. They have gone all out. There are some immaculate stunners that have been released by the usual suspects, and there have been a whole lot of homages to the women who are going to be performing at this tournament. And all in all, this is a significant step by all the brands to make women's football as diverse and exclusive to itself as it is away from men's football. Please do note that in future I will do a ranked video on both the home and away kits of all the teams in the World Cup, but unfortunately there are 4 teams, which include Zambia and Haiti, who have not released any new kits for the World Cup as of yet. So once all the kits have been released, I will do a ranked video to give you a look into what I personally think are the best and the not so best kits that have been made for the Women's World Cup. Now, on to the more important things here. And when you look at these World Cup kits that have been released this year, it is very easy to see that there has been a nationalist and a prideful approach that has been undertaken by particularly the big brands in Nike and Adidas. Now, anyone with a fleeting knowledge of geography or countries in general will recognize that there's a distinct nationalist approach that has been taken by these brands in order to facilitate the creation of these beautiful kits. As you can see in the likes of the Adidas away kits, there is a very naturalistic sense that goes about them. As you can see, for example, with the Swedish kit, it's based on the natural icebergs that occur within Sweden. And this approach is to adopt not only a sense of national pride from the players and their respective fans, but to the neutral fan who decides to purchase these kits. They are essentially being educated by the respective brands about the country of which they are representing as a supporter. From a general national perspective, it is free marketing to the neutral supporters who are going to be there in Australia, New Zealand, and watching from across the world that this is our country and this is what our country has to offer in terms of natural beauty. But also, apart from the nationalist sense, it also gives an identity to these women who are representing their countries, as their kits are exclusive to them. There are no men's teams that have the kits that they do have, apart from maybe Adidas, who have, for some odd reason, decided to carry on the home kits from the Men's World Cup for the women, which is in sharp contrast to what Nike has done by releasing brand new sets of women's kits for their respective countries like England and the USA. Nationalism aside though, these kits also do identify a sharp change in the narrative for women's football, because now if you are someone who is interested in football shirt collecting, or someone who has an eye for fashion, or just in general loves football, and you want to support a certain team that's going to be there at the Women's World Cup, take for example Colombia. The shirt that Colombia will be wearing, at least the away shirt in this case, is something that is completely unique to the Colombian women's teams. So if you were to go into a shop and say, I'm looking for the Colombian away shirt, you would have to specify and say, I'm looking for the Colombian women's team's away shirt. Because, like I said before, these kits are exclusive to the women's team, and as such, only by the recognition of saying you want the women's team's shirt will you be able to find it or be given to it by the respective shop that you're going into. What this then means is that women's football now has its own identity, at least when it comes to the World Cup. because nowadays there has been so much uniformity at club level, which is understandable for the women's teams and the men's team to have the same kits. And that is understandable because you want to have the same club identity and whatnot at club level. But on the national stage, where you have a bit more breathing space to be flexible with your creativity, these brands have done exactly that by making sure that the women's team's kits are very distinguishable from the men's team's kits. And this is a watershed moment that shows how far women's football has come, especially in recent times. Full credit needs to be given to these brands for going all out with these women's kits, as for the most part they're very immaculate kits, and I'm pretty sure that when these teams go out onto the pitch they will wear these kits with pride, and they'll feel a sense of national pride, as these kits have been made with something in mind in terms of having that sense of national identity. A lot of effort has gone into the thought process of manufacturing, the designs, and everything else included with these kits. Even with smaller brands like Le Coq Sportif, who are the official sponsors for the South African women's team's kits, they have launched a fan vote to see which kits are the most popular, which they will then manufacture and have on display for the World Cup. To me, this is a strong sign of the brands wanting to work hand in hand with fans to design kits that not only the fans will appreciate but also identify with, and that cannot be commended enough or even well enough from the fans and from critics and other individuals who have a say within the world of football. The only discrepancy I may have with the release of these kits is that there was not the same effort that was shown across the board, as some kits do not have the same pop, or they do not stand out in the same way as the other kits. And a prominent example of this, on the Adidas side of things at least, is looking at the Philippines kits. And the kits of the Philippines national women's team, you can see that they're just stock kits that have been colorized to identify with the national team, or the country, better yet, of the Philippines, and not much else effort was put into it apart from that. I do feel that, like, if Adidas were willing to put in just a little bit more effort, I understand that the Philippines is not one of Adidas's elite teams, but a little bit more effort would have been appreciated to give off that same sense of national pride and identity for the Philippines players. However, apart from that, this has been a resounding success of all of these brands that have manufactured these kits for the Women's World Cup. It's a very good step and a very enormous step for women's football in having its own identity, and all we can ask for is more of the same from these brands, be it at national level and, if they're willing to, even at club level. Otherwise, thank you very much for tuning into this video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one, where we will have even more World Cup themed videos, as the World Cup is coming sooner and sooner as the days go by, and it's looking to be a very, very fun and enjoyable tournament.